All right, 3, 2, 1. Act grown up.
Grown up.
No, childlike.
Too hard.
Yeah.
Terry, you're introducing, so welcome Facebook Live. It's good to see everybody out there. We are in for our second session of I Said This, You Heard That. If you didn't watch our first session, go to YouTube, youtube.com/Garfield Memorial Church, and you can watch the video there. We're going to continue on our colors and our temperaments today. Want to reintroduce our panel to everybody, and then we're going to watch a couple of clips as well. If you're watching online live, please feel free to comment on the ask questions or make comments. I'm very sensitive, so don't make fun of me. Darlene already did that today.
He's making that up. He is not sensitive.
Flirting. No, I'm part. Yeah, hardly. Yeah. So please comment there. Pastor Terry's going to be watching that. But yeah, we're just excited to share a little bit more about how our temperaments work and how we can love each other better, how we can make our words wholesome, especially in these trying and changing times. So, Terry, you want everybody to just reintroduce themselves, tell us your color, and tell us one thing that makes your color awesome. Tracy, why don't you go first?
Okay.
No. Brian,
Yes.
please go
Oh, you're
first.
just gonna do that to me again.
And I just want to butt in, which I know is causing Brian more pain, but the reason that we're having Brian go first is because he's yellow and he wants to talk and share with us all. So go, Brian.
Thank you. Oh, geez. I wasn't gonna say anything, but I'm Brian. I'm yellow. What makes us, or myself, I guess, I don't know, awesome's the word that you use. We're sporadic, which actually isn't amazing for everybody, and I get that. A lot of people like plans, but you're always going to have something new or exciting with the yellow, or at least with me. You're always going to do something different and something that you might not have thought of to do before. So that's what makes yellows awesome.
Cool. Well, great. Tracy, we'll let the blues go. No, you know what? We're gonna let the green, the soul green today. We lost our other green. She had things to do, but Darlene, why don't you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Darlene Johnson Cargill, and I'm green. Green, if you look outside, you see green grass, which makes greens awesome. Green leaves on the trees are awesome. And I epitomize green because I'm awesome, I'm calm, I'm peaceful, and I'm loving. And I'm
awesome.
Green.
Yeah, green speak the language of calm and harmony. So Darlene brings some peacefulness to our group. So thanks for being with us, Darlene. Why don't we do the other yellow so I don't make her feel sad? And she's partly green, I believe, but I'll let her speak for herself.
Yes, hi, I'm Peggy, and I'm half green, half yellow. Yellow, I'm very outgoing. I can pick up and talk to anybody. If someone's standing in line with me, I will know them by the time we get to the register. So I just think that's awesome. I'm just, friendly. There's parts of me that are green, but, the calmness, liking my own space at times. So that's me.
Awesome. Well, I am going to leave the reds till last just because,
okay.
we like to be in charge. So we'll let Tracy and Terry, if both of you want to go next, that'd be great.
Okay, my name is Tracy Everett, and I am a blue. And what makes blue really a great color or great trait to have is that I am a creative problem solver, very empathetic, methodical, analytical. So, we're really good at researching things and resolving things. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to my fellow blue, Terry.
Well, one of the things about blue is it's the Jesus color, the Jesus temperament,
Oh,
as we.
Here we go.
starting now.
But no, Jesus really embodies and exhibits all the temperaments, all the colors. But I think the sort of the thoughtfulness and groundedness of blues, they tend to be pretty steady and able to, see problems before they start sometimes, or else really help to solve things once they go. I kind of resent the original Greek name for it, melancholic, but I understand that's an ancient Greek word, but it makes it sound like we're sad, but we're not sad. We're not as loopy as yellows, but we're not sad. I mean,
Loopy.
not as fun as yellows.
Yeah, better
Esther
word.
Tipp is already, on the yellow train with us here on Facebook. So
Ah, nice. Yes, blues like perfection is one of the things I think that either make you awesome or drive you crazy. I think it depends on who you look at, or your perspective. Wally, why don't you share next?
Okay, my name is Wally Everett. I'm a red. I don't normally wear red, but Curt embarrassed me last week, and so I'm wearing red this week. A red that you can see. The best part of our temperament, I think, is that we're responsible. It may seem dull to other people, but we take care of our responsibilities. The family, my church family, when I'm there, when we're in the building, and we're always about being safe and secure. And that's the most important thing. Also, if you look at all of the different colors, there really are no weaknesses in red.
No.
Except for
Oh
pride.
boy. Yeah.
And I'm looking at my book, Wally. We're gonna get into strengths and weaknesses here in a little bit. And number 33 is prideful.
Yep.
Just
That's
throwing
good.
that out.
Well, there might be
Mhm.
one or two slip-ups in there, but for the most part, there are very few weaknesses in red.
Okay. I am also a red. And I one of the reasons I like being a red is and like reds is for their leadership. If there's not forward motion, a red's gonna step forward and try to move things along. Sometimes that can be a weakness, but a lot of times I look around like, man, we wouldn't get anywhere if it wasn't for me. We'd have a lot of fun. We would study things a lot, but like we gotta do something. So we're gonna, for those of you that aren't familiar with the colors, and maybe we're still speaking a little bit of Greek to you, I'm gonna show the short video on the how the colors break down. Hopefully our screen share works today the way it's supposed to. And we'll go ahead and watch about 2 minutes of this, learn about it, and then we'll go, we'll break for just a second, and then we'll go into a little bit about words. So let's see. Can you all see the screen right now?
Yes.
Yep.
All right.
Is that the next question? was trying to project myself.
All right. So I'm going to fast forward to the next slide here, but can somebody share maybe a little bit about something they took away from our last session, maybe a reminder of something, or something that maybe helped you throughout this week? So if somebody wants to just jump in, I would love to hear from one of you before we watch our next clip.
I can say something. I think that the reviewing of this last week really helped me throughout the week, not just with me and things of work that I need to work on, but also relating to others. You know, like if others don't, you know, act the way I think they should act, I can take into consideration how they're built and what they're like, and understand more where they're coming from or why they react the way they do.
Yeah, thanks, Peggy. I feel the same way. Like, I just was reminded, you know, I've spent every day for the last 2.5 months with my kids and my wife, and you know, and one of my weaknesses, as we'll talk about them in a minute, is impatience. And I was just reminded how differently each of them were wired. So I know it helped me a little bit this week too. So we're going to start this next clip, and you're going to hear just about the words you use, how we speak, and how we can speak more lovingly to others and also to ourselves. So this clip's about 7 minutes or so, but hopefully it'll be really valuable for us all to hear.
That in your strengths, you can put the other person first.
Which is Philippians 2, right? Put others' needs
Love
ahead
that
of
Bible.
Yeah. I'm just trying to have fun.
Yeah.
But you talk a lot about the words you choose. That's what's up here, what I choose to be. And your temperament tends to determine what you speak.
That's right.
Right? So walk us through those.
Exactly. Hence the cover of the book. I said this, you heard that. It came out of me doing this in my office. So they're both yellow, I'm blue. We're polar opposites of each other. So when Terry speaks, I hear. And when I speak, she hears. And even though we're good friends and we might have a great lunch, we're going to leave not feeling total. I'm going to feel like, did I really say that to her? Did she understand what I meant? She's going to go, oh, I hope we have something else on the calendar. That was fun. Did I tell her that? Did I tell her that? We want to get rid of that gray area. We want to start here instead of here. So really what we're even doing is we're kind of flipping the cover of the book. I want to know what Terry needs to hear so that I know what to say. So in order to identify another temperament, once you know your own, it's really important because you have to look through a different color lens. You're not becoming something different. But again, I want to speak language she can hear me. So what I want to do is listen to the words she speaks. You want to listen to understand in communication instead of listening to respond, which is what we all do. But if we will listen to understand, you will start to be able to identify another temperament. So we can talk about that a little bit. I put some examples. The yellows, you have to understand, they speak animated, fun, exaggerated, people-oriented words. So they're going to say things like...
You're going to interrupt again?
Yeah, I'm going to shush. My son says my dad does not exaggerate. He just remembers big.
No, I love that. Love that, right? And you would say things like this, right?
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
I'm joining in.
Join in. Who's going to be there?
Oh, I totally forgot. I hate
you
that
even
one.
said
Yeah.
this slide was made long before he forgot that ring this morning. Let me tell you that. So we know, again, there's going to be common phrases that we can listen to for each temperament. The reds often speak bold, bossy, confident, controlling words. So theirs are going to be very bottom line, or seem like they're bottom line. Reds want you to know that they do think about it before they shoot it out there, but it does. Just do it. Hurry up. I'll get it done. Follow my lead. It's very almost with the reds, what I have to work with is tone and volume. You know, the reds are, I just heard that big collective.
And I have to say, our worship pastor down here, Leah Bracey, and Justin Mackey over at South Euclid, I see you, Justin. I knew they were reds before they even started, like, follow my lead. I guess that's why they're up here leading worship.
And what's interesting between a red and a blue, blues are sound sensitive. So sometimes the interaction between a red and a blue will look like this. hey, just follow me. And I'm like, why are you yelling at me? And they're like, I'm not yelling at you. You just needed to know. Come on. And I'm like, now you're really yelling at me. Right? So we have to, again, listen to the words that we're speaking so that you know your language, so that you can do what I call paradigm shifting. And that is looking through a different colored lens. The blue, we speak detail, analytical, compassionate words. So I'm going to say things like this. I've been giving it some thought. I don't trust her. I don't trust him. We're very big, right? You say that, right? Are you sure that's safe? Everything we say is, well, every other word out of our mouth is usually something about safety, right? See, blues, I got your back, I know. The green, sarcastic, easygoing, patient, kind words. These people have extreme dry wit and they're quick, even though they don't say a lot. When they say it, we listen, right? And we're either going, wow, or wow, that was really funny. But they'll say things like this, no big deal. I'm good with whatever. Can that wait till tomorrow? That's what they're gonna say. So right now, some of the reds in the room are going, I can't take that. Like, why are they even talking like that? Because the reds, if you ask somebody, young lady, if they wanted coffee, if you said to a green, would you like coffee or tea? What are you expecting he says? Coffee or tea, right? But what happens when he goes, oh, I'm good with whatever? Hair on the back of your neck goes up, right? Like, you better answer before I pour this right on your head, right? Right? So even now with a little bit, you know, we could even change that discussion. If you know he's green and you say, do you want coffee or tea? And he says, I'm good with whatever, you can have grace, right? And you can say you're having tea, right? I've made the decision. If you know you're speaking to a red and she asks you for coffee or tea, now what can you do? Make a decision, right? Thank you for asking, I'll have tea. So now you're automatically loving that person better, just by adjusting to how they talk. Not changing who you are. God designed you perfectly, but loving another person better, speaking kindly.
And you're going to give us an example from your own kids, but
Oh,
before you do, just a little quick one. Like Terry was very balanced across the strengths. I was very out of balance. Yeah, I'm going to be here next week. But and there was something in your writings that when you have the balance, it's almost like being multilingual in some ways.
Well,
is that?
Yeah, no. What it is when you do, remember you're a dominant and secondary.
Gotcha.
It's horizontal or vertical.
Okay.
If you do the assessment, and this goes a little bit into 2.0, 3.0, if you assess out and you go to 3 temperaments or 4, there's a reason behind that. One is that it's called masking. Masking comes if there's grief, trauma, abuse. What I see in my office normally, about 90% of the time, it comes from some kind of parenting, where maybe 2 overlapping red parents are saying to a green child, get moving. What's wrong with you? Why aren't you like your brother? You know, again, not intentionally trying to be unkind, but they're using very red words over a green child.
Gotcha.
Or overlapping blue parents with a yellow child. And I'm saying, quit wiggling. You're too loud. That's not the rule. Right? Again, we're not intentionally trying to be unkind, but we're using words that dull your sparkle.
Gotcha.
And that's not okay with me.
Gotcha.
So what I would want you to figure out is, I would say you're probably green, which is the other reason you'll have more than one temperament, is the indecisiveness of a green actually answering the question. That probably happens more than.
All right, well, we'll pause there. You know, wanted to highlight, we talked a little bit about some of our strengths at the beginning, and we want to continue with talking about those and the words that we use to speak. So one of the questions I love that Kathleen kind of highlights there is how we can speak different words to show people grace. So Peggy, I know you shared a little bit about how last week reminded you of how people, you know, interact and stuff. But I'm wondering if we can just kind of go around our group here and share, you know, is there somebody in your life that when you remember when you first went through the training or just from last week that you went, oh, they're such and such color, and that allows you to have more grace for them. You know, if you want to, you don't have to share a name, but, you know, how has this understanding of maybe yourself and also that person allowed you to love them better or give them more grace?
Well, with Wally and I being married, it helped us, I think, tremendously. And this was even, before the quarantine and that type of thing, because it allowed me, or it gave me the knowledge to know that, maybe he's communicating this way because that's one of his innate patterns. And not only that, how can I communicate with him better so that he can actually hear what I'm saying? So I think it's helped tremendously in both directions, really.
Yeah, and I was going to comment on what Kathleen said about being straightforward. Reds being so straightforward, sometimes it comes across as yelling. And I've tried to temper that. It's difficult to do sometimes. And what I have to learn to do is articulate my thoughts more sensitively, which is not really me. But I also learned something about my wife's need for solitude, to get away from everything. I used to think she was just mad at me because of something I said. She would actually just want to go in the room and relax and read the Bible or, crochet or whatever. So it has actually improved our relationship, if that's possible.
That's great. Brian, you want to share?
Yeah, I think 2 situations for myself. One, I think just growing up and having a mother who's very blue, I always felt like bogged down, not because she didn't care for me or anything, but I'd be like, let's do something fun. And she's like, that sounds dangerous. And I'm like, why are you being like that? I'm like, this is so fun. And so just understanding that, and when she's just cautious, it's because she cares for me. And so now when I share that I'm going to do something fun or something that it seems unsafe, I lay out like protocol. I'm like, but we're doing this in safety, and we've thought of this through. And then also definitely with reds at like work, I think reds do come off as like very straightforward and very like, you've got to do it this way. And myself, I'm like, but there's so many opportunities. There's so many different ways to do it. And so when a red like approaches me and like, they're like, hey, I need you to get this done and this done and this done, I can see it as like not forcing it upon me, but rather like, hey, they've got tasks that they're looking for me to do, and I'd love to do it their way for them. And so those 2 definitely are the situations for me.
Nice. And Brian, is your secondary green then?
Yes, it is green.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's something just to highlight as we're going to continue to share here, is that we oftentimes have a secondary that can color our interactions and the words we speak. But I think a lot of times as we're in this quarantine period, and thankfully moving out of it, hopefully safely, I'm sure, as our blues are very concerned about that. I think it's important that we recognize that under tension, under stress, like we're in right now, our dominant characteristics are probably going to come out more. And so if your primary is yellow, that yellow is probably that need for interaction is going to be there and stuff. And for me, like I'm red and then my secondary is yellow. So like I've never had a thought in my head. They just come out as words, which drives my blue wife crazy. But like I need that interaction. So like that brings out that the isolation has caused a lot of kind of stress for me, but allows me to have grace for myself when I'm in that place. So I won't dominate this, but who would like to share next? Darlene, you're muted. Let me unmute you.
Unmute.
There you
No,
go.
was walking. My husband playing the piano. I don't know if you could hear it, but I had to move. But anyway, what am I answering now? The sarcasm, I this week was interesting. In fact, my husband brought up when he apologized for hearing something differently than what I said. and it was very interesting. He said, I know that's not what you said, but that's what I heard. And I was like, oh, okay. So sometimes he's blue, by the way.
Okay.
So it was sometimes I come across as sarcastic, and as I said, it wasn't, but it's in such a loving way that it's not meant to, be deliberately sarcastic. So I think that answers the question.
Yes, yeah, it certainly does. Thank you. Peggy, would you want to share a little bit about how, understanding the temperaments allows you to have more grace for someone?
Oh yeah, I have a couple things real quick. I have a couple people in my family who are definitely green. And when I'm enthusiastic, or if I want to go do something, or if I'm telling them something and they're just, sort of not as excited as I am when I think they should be, it helps me realize, okay, that's just kind of like the way they are. But, or if we're doing something, they don't seem to be having as much fun as I think they should be having. But then in conversation with them later, they had a great time, but it's just, they aren't kind of like I can be. I also have a daughter and daughter-in-law, and my daughter is like me. She's definitely, I don't know if she's split, but pretty much. And then I have a daughter-in-law who's red and yellow like you. And she plans things, she gets things done, and she's like over the top. It's really funny, and it kind of helps. Like, I have to remind my daughter, hey, that's how she's built. That's how she is. And, it works out fine, but it really has helped to see, the differences in how we are. And you do have more grace and understanding.
Awesome, thank you. I think we've got Terry, Tracy, and Wally. I think, no, who hasn't shared? I lost track. Wally, you're muted, so if you want to talk.
I think I shared on this one, I believe.
Did you? Okay, yeah, you're good then. Tracy, did you share?
Did Terry?
Terry hasn't shared.
I did not. Yeah, so I'd say I'm married to a yellow, and he has many words, and so I need to. I've been more intentional about looking him in the eye when he's talking to me, and even if there's details that seem a little extraneous to me, because I'm, as a blue, I want to just cut to the chase. Just tell me what this is about, and let's just get to it. So I red is my secondary, and so so I just try to listen. I mean, it's not that I'm not interested, but just realize that. I mean, I don't think Joe's going to watch this, but anyhow. He just has lots of words.
I'm sure he's watching.
And so I want to pay attention to that, because it's a gift. So
He has a lot of words, so he might be watching this and he's not listening to it. So you're good either way.
That could be true, yeah.
All right. Did everybody get a chance to share? Because apparently I'm scattered today. So the next part we're going to watch here is about our needs. We all, as we have a temperament, as Kathleen said, God has created us all uniquely and perfectly. It doesn't mean we're not fallen, we don't have our flaws, but we also have these innate needs, things that need to be met for us to be kind of at peace and experiencing that shalom, or that wholeness of God. And so I want to learn a little bit about that, one, so that we can understand our own needs, but also so that we can understand the needs of our loved ones, and speak to those. So we're going to watch, this clip is about 7 or 8 minutes as well. I'm going to, let's see, get it queued up here, and we'll jump in from that. So let me do a screen share again. And
so we can listen to understand, we can watch text, we can look at photos, and you can identify another temperament.
So the temperaments talk how you talk, but also what you need to hear. That's
exactly. Temperament, this is so critically important. This is what separates me from personality, is these innate needs. These needs you have been trying to fill since you were born. And really, it would be a loss for me if your church, if when I left, I heard things were going on
I'm buffering. I apologize.
in your hallways like this. Oh, Chip's so funny. He's yellow. Oh, Susie's such a good leader. She's red. Okay, we're not in descriptive words. That's not what the temperaments are about. Because in your strengths, all the temperaments can be a good leader. All the temperaments can be funny. All the temperaments can be thoughtful. All the temperaments can be kind. There's just some things that are innately wired to people. But how we become that best version of ourselves is to stay in our strengths so that you have something to give, because you cannot give what you don't have, right? And what we're trying to do is exactly what Paul shows us in that verse. We're trying to not let any unwholesome words out, to build others up according to their needs. These are her needs. Each temperament has their own set of needs. And what you would want to do when you identify your temperament is you want to define these needs. It is so important to put a definition, because when you're talking about life words, which is I think you talked about last week, on your tongue lays the power of life or death. Who talks to you the most? You do. So you first have to say, am I speaking life words to me? Do I know how to fill safety and sensitivity for me? Because it's between me and God.
Yes.
And to do his work, I have to, my love tank has to be filled in order to love my husband better. And then in order for us to love our children better, right? So we have to understand what drives us. This is what drives each temperament. And I would love to go over some definitions with your people, because this is such a game changer. This innate need is the game changer. I've seen marriages change overnight. I've seen parent-children relationships restored just by understanding the temperament and understanding what they need. So let's go through some of them. The sanguine, the yellow, approval. And remember, these are ones that I put in the book that I've heard the most in my office. This is just to get you kick-started. Yours might be a little bit different, right? And you do want to customize it to yourself, right? And then, so then you can articulate it to your beautiful wife and then your children. Being liked for who they are without needing to change. Sound good?
Yeah, you nailed me.
Right?
Yeah,
The approval. I always said the demon I grew up with was you could have done better.
Yes.
And I heard that all my youth. You know, but that's out of my need for approval and acceptance. Like, it's okay. You did okay.
And isn't it interesting? That's exactly what you said earlier. We don't realize the power of words and how long we can carry those with us, right?
Yeah.
But today we can break the chain on some of those, right? Acceptance, being invited and included. Attention. This is the one I really want to point out for yellows. It's having your full focus, especially eye contact. I did not and do not hear in my office that they want to be center stage or the life of the party. That's not what I hear, but that's what we want to put on yellows, because they are loud, right? And they do have that magnetic personality. But really what I hear most in the temperament is having your full focus, especially eye contact. So what he's hoping is that when he comes home and she's busy with the kids and he has a story to tell, she'll stop what she's doing and give him eye contact and listen to his story, right?
Does that happen?
I always say, look at me, look at me.
Yeah, and I say the same.
Yeah, you do. And I'm looking at the TV.
Yes.
You won't be after today.
No, I won't.
Affection, being noticed or acknowledged, okay? For the reds, loyalty is huge. The loyalty is so important to a red. And what I want to say about the reds is I absolutely love reds. You heard that collective sigh when we talked about the tone. My 2020 mission is to get people to think differently about reds. Because every other temperament, I'm going to have your back, I'm going to show you loyalty reds right now. Every other temperament is described in their strengths except for the red. The yellows are funny, they're fun to be with, they're encouraging. The blues are thoughtful and they're, compassionate and they're orderly. The greens are kind and they're great listeners. The reds are bossy. You're impatient. You're intolerant. I want that to change. Because yes, I want that to change. I mean,
We just had a red redeemed.
yay! Good. And I would hope reds in this room help me with that. Your power bar is high, but you're edgy. I want to soften those edges. The best example for us for reds and change is Saul to Paul. It's right there. So I would love you to own that and help me to help the world see how important we need that powerful red person. So with that said, loyalty, being prioritized, knowing that you have their back is what I hear the most. Sense of control is the one that's confusing. Reds, their basic desire is power and control, but sense of control is different than having control. You have control over no one. You have influence over everyone. So what sense of control truly means to a red is this exact thing. Everyone pulling their weight and following the plan. If I ask the reds in the room, do you want to be in charge? No, no, right? But what happens if you come into a room and all the cogs aren't working together? What's your first innate reaction? Take over and fix it. See, do you see? It's just right there. But what I hope we're hearing is that's not what they want to do, right? As a blue, if I came in and all the cogs weren't working, that would not be my initial reaction. I literally would say, who's in charge? Like, I'd be looking like somebody needs to be in charge of this. It's not me, because God, I don't want my name and responsibility. It's not the rule, So that's a blue, right? So this is really important for me, for the reds out there, is that you understand what they mean by sense of control. Appreciation, being valued for their unique strengths, and credit for work, being valued for their contributions. Now, when you're doing your own temperaments, some people get confused and they go, appreciation, credit for work, same thing. One is outward and one is inward. And each temperament has that confusing couple that they might not understand, and that's what we want to stop. Each one has their own definition, okay? Blues, safety, huge. We do not do anything unless we feel safe. Our surroundings or relationships.
And that word trust.
Trust.
I told that story this morning. It triggered with me because Pastor Terry and I, my best friend in ministry, but we didn't know each other when we first got together. And I'm just loud and talking and everything. And like one of our first conversations, she said, just don't BS me. like, don't talk,
Don't
can I
sell
trust
me.
you? Can I
Yep.
trust you?
Yep.
And when we crossed that bridge, our friendship was incredible.
Well, you're opposites.
Yeah.
And if we will learn to lean into each other's strengths, to be vulnerable and transparent, then you become a force that's unbreakable. But where that has to come is with grace and transparency.
See, I did that.
Right? Yeah. Give him some credit. Yeah. Approval, acceptance. See, it's happening right here in front of us, right? Sensitivity, being understood. Blues, we don't necessarily need you to agree with us. We just want to know that you heard us and that you understand where we're at, that you can not feel our emotions, but match our emotions. So we can be, hey, fine, you don't have to do it my way. Just, I know I'm good that you heard me, right? Support, being offered or provided help. Space and silence, having time to decompress, process, or think. So when my kids were younger and I would come home from work, they knew that I would take 5 minutes. I would go into my office and I would just decompress before they could ask me any questions. And again, I'm not in there 30 minutes. It was just a few minutes. But I'm telling you, I came out of that office a better mom. Because I was able to have filled my love tank, prayed a little bit, and I came out a better mom. So we want to make sure we're honoring not only the innate needs, but what they mean to each one of us, right? The greens, harmony. Everyone getting along and everything going smoothly. Unlike silence for a blue, for a green, you can have a room full of people as long as everybody's getting along, right, greens? Feeling of worth, being valued for their unique strengths. This is really important when you're talking about a team or at work. You know, this is where you really see it. Is what they want to hear is that, oh my gosh, you weren't here yesterday. The event didn't go the same. You bring such value to the team when you're here, right? That's what Greens I've heard in my office like to hear, that they bring something to the relationship or to the team or to the workplace, right? I love this too, lack of stress. The absence of combative or conflictive words, right? I mean, you can see Greens when there's arguments start, which some of the Reds love to argue, that's their pastime. They'll just shrink back into a corner, right? Do you know anybody like that?
Yeah, shut down, yes.
Yeah? You have somebody that you've seen do that?
She's got green in her.
Yeah.
You called it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that.
But she does use combative words, and I'm going to say that loud.
Okay, well, let me tell you something.
See, did you hear what just happened?
No.
I can make fun of myself. I
Yeah.
make fun of her. It just.
And the thing you want to know about the Greens, they're quiet. They run under the radar, but this is a person that can take the dripping for a very long time. Where the Reds are very explosive and can be angry 5 times before noon, right? The Greens are like a drip in a bucket. But when that green gets backed into a corner, they're going to fight or they're going to flee. Most of the time, they flee. They flee the job, they flee the relationship, they flee the conversation, they flee the marriage. But if they decide to fight, there's nobody more stubborn on the board than the green. And they can make a red look like a kitten. It is so volatile, and it comes from what we think is nowhere. They're like, what's wrong with Terry, right? Where'd that come from? But it had been going on for a month, 3 months, 6 months. So we want to know that quiet phlegmatic can be very explosive. So these definitions are going to change every single conversation you have. If you just think right now about the conversations, am I lifting up whoever? Think about it to your spouse, your child, according to their needs. Am I doing it, right?
All right, well, welcome back. I hope that helped refresh some of your own, understanding of your own innate needs. I know listening to Kathleen, I was reminded, of my tone. I have this tendency to shout, and my wife and my kids are always like, "Stop shouting at us, Dad." I'm like, "I'm just talking to you. I don't know what the problem is." So I just reminded of that tone. That tone piece for me is really important. But wanted to, I think, as I mentioned a little bit ago, under stress, I think our innate needs come out even more, especially if they're not being met. And they put us in a place where we use words that are hurtful or unkind. And so what I want to ask everybody is, during this time of quarantine, I was kind of hearing all of the needs, and I can check the boxes, and I bet you can too, of how the pandemic and then the shutdown of, the stay-at-home order in Ohio, how those have undermined some of our innate needs. So what are some of the needs that you have really felt bubble up in yourself over the last couple of months? And maybe a little bit of how have you tried to address that or just processed that? So does anybody want to go first, or should I call on you?
I've got an instance that I could share that is a recent one.
Great.
On Monday for the holiday, Wally and I were invited to just a gathering with the family. And, thinking back last year, that gathering was a larger one. So I'm telling them, no, I don't think I'm going to go. But something said, stop and call. And I'm glad that I did, because it wound up being 6 of the older relatives that attended. And one of the nice things, just, in expressing my concern, and I'm almost thinking that the relative that I was talking to was also a blue. She actually had things in place, like when we came in, she took our temperature with, with a thermometer. And we all had masks on. And once we got seated and in place, we felt comfortable with taking masks off because we also had masks when we went. And it really turned out to be a really good gathering with just the 6 of us. We were spaced out enough, the different households kind of sat together, but we were spaced out enough that we could actually enjoy it. And normally my first thing would have been to just back off entirely. So, putting those parameters in place made it feel safe. It turned out to be fun. And it kind of took me out of the norm for me, which would have been, oh no, I'm not coming out till next year. So.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that, Tracy. That's helpful.
Well,
Charlie?
for me, one of the things I've missed is that I'm kind of an unfiltered guy, and I have to be filtered around my wife, so I don't get with my friends where I can just let loose and say things that you guys wouldn't approve of either. And I'm real big on respect and loyalty, which happen to be 2 of my wife's strengths, which is a good thing. But I miss the camaraderie, the respect that I give and receive, and the loyalty of my friends, who are very limited because I demand loyalty from everybody. And if I don't get it, I step away from you and move on about my business. So I miss that contact with people. This is great, but I can't wait to see you guys in person and feel that love that I know is there. So that's it for me.
Thanks for sharing.
Oh.
Darlene, go for it.
Well, during this pandemic, when I've had to go to the supermarket, there was one particular time I was at Whole Foods, and they had the spaces on the floor and, that shows where you're supposed to stand. And there was a woman in front of me, and she was just going berserk. And because she was ranting about, the lines and where's the line and how you're supposed to get in, blah, blah, blah. And I said in my harmony-like calm voice, well, the line goes this way and you have to get, I'm explaining to her, wanting her to be okay with the new process. And so she went around and she, got in the line that she was supposed to be. But it was just a matter of my feeling that she just needed to calm down. And since I was there in my green mode, to say it's okay, just go around here and get in line. But so it worked out fine. But I find myself doing that, and it's trying to get people out of there or into the new way of doing things, especially, and that happened at Whole Foods, and it also happened at Walmart. So I just do what I do.
Have you found it, Darlene, as I'm looking at a green really needs a lack of stress, I imagine, especially going out, that becomes stressful for you. Is that the way you felt like you've met the need, is by trying to help people into a place of calm?
I don't even think about it. It's like second nature. I was there, and it just, not that I had a need. I just had a need to be out, out amongst the people. So no, it wasn't a great need, but it was just something that I felt needed to be done in terms of getting her to calm down.
Gotcha. Cool.
Recognizing that she was stressing out over nothing, really.
I think that's a great example of how you can use your temperaments like your strengths, but we're talking temperaments here, really like a superpower, right? So when you're out and about, Darlene, the fact that you're kind of not even consciously, but
right,
utilizing your temperament to help people. And I think we all have the opportunity to do that. And I'm going to be thinking about how to be more intentional, when I'm out and about, because you never know. It could be a little encounter with a stranger, and it can make a huge difference, not only in their day, but even going on from that. I remember when that person, everybody else was all jazzed up, and that one person was really kind and calm with me. So.
Yeah, Brian, you want to share? I don't want to sit. You look like a lost puppy dog down there.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think one of the things for me is approval. I think everything has become super systematic and everybody has to do the same thing. Everybody looks the same. Everybody has a mask and all those different situations going on. And so I feel like everybody's alike and I just blend in with the crowd. And that's like super difficult for me because I like being different. I like being unique and I like being acknowledged for that uniqueness. And so when I wear a mask and all you can see are my eyes and I just am another person in the crowd, it's really tough for me. I can't be as cool or whatever. And so I grew out my facial hair just to do that. And my hair is long right now just to do that. And like, those are just like little ways for me to like be unique and be different and be approved. And so there's that. And then also, I would also say like acceptance has been hard. Like I want to be invited to things, but there's nothing to be invited to. And like, I'm over the response of like, well, once this is over, we should hang out. And like, that means nothing to me. I'm like, okay, I get it. You want to hang out. And that's nice to hear. But in my head, that's like an empty invite. Like that means nothing because we don't know when it's going to be over or something like that. And so those two things have been lacking severely. But there's been other ways that they could be filled by like Zoom calls and just calling people and random texts out of the blue and stuff like that.
And Marco Polo, right?
Marco Polo.
And for those of you that don't know that reference, Brian told us all we had to download an app called Marco Polo last week. Did anybody do that on the?
It's okay. It's fine.
All right. Forgive us, Brian.
Hey, Curt, just, I want to jump in. I have been negligent in sharing some of the comments, but I want to, Larry said something. He said it was good commentary on how different colors get along. Tracy's concerns with the outing over the holiday dovetails with how Brian says his blue mother can have her concerns allayed when explained as Tracy had happened. So I thought that was a really, really good insight, just to see how those things connect with each other and just, to pick up. He hasn't had a chance to take it, and we will be announcing an online version, 6-week online version of the full class. You won't be on display like us. We're just trying to get you a taste and a window into this if you haven't taken the temperaments, but we will be announcing that soon.
Yes, and Chip says, Brian, that you have his approval.
Thank you, Chip.
So from one yellow to another yellow. And my thought is, what does it matter if Chip likes you? But that's another story.
That means a lot.
Peggy, I think maybe you're the only one that didn't share yet, so I don't want to leave you out.
Yeah, no worries. I think for me during this time, I am outgoing, but I still go to the grocery store. I still do things like that. And I see my daughter and I still get to talk to people. The one thing I have to say it's something I have to work on, that this has brought out more, I think, is I shared before, probably offline, is that I find since I'm half yellow, half green, I see most of my weaknesses in the green area, and being judgmental is one of those. And when I go somewhere and I see people who aren't wearing masks and who aren't really social, aren't distancing themselves, like I get a little irked. I get a little like angry a little, I think, when I see them, and I immediately become judgmental, and I have to catch myself and I have to say, I don't know that person. And, but that is something this has brought out that I've really had to work with. So that's brought it a lot.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that and being vulnerable there. I appreciate it. So we're going to kind of start to wrap up here. And I know for me, one of my challenges, is that sense of control that Peggy shared a little bit. And that's how I hear it, is the sense of control. Like, well, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. and I place a high level of importance on excellent leadership. So without getting political at all, I really have felt, part of my need being met with Governor DeWine's, preemptive leadership and all of this. And I'm just thinking of that as one way. But when I see incompetent leadership, it makes me very, very angry. And I get angry 5 times before noon on a regular basis. So, I'm going to share this. I want to leave us with a question for everybody watching or that's going to watch in the future is, what can you do to meet one of the needs of a loved one this week? So if you have a spouse that you're living with, or, a parent, or just a close friend, whatever that might be, but how can you meet one of their needs? And I'll share my example just as we're going out today. My wife is also a blue. And if you look at the needs, one of the needs is space and silence. And as a red yellow external processor, it's hard for me to sometimes do that. And we have 4 boys in the house, so it's never quiet in our house. And I've heard her say a lot lately, I just need a break. No one touch me. Like, it just needs to be quiet. And so at night, when the kids are in bed, I'll make sure that I don't talk to her for a little bit and let her read her book and just sit and relax and stuff like that, which is hard for me because I'm like, I need to talk to somebody. But I know for me, it's one of the ways that I can try to help to love her better. And so I would just encourage everybody to think about what is one way that maybe is outside of your default, but how can you love one of your loved ones better this week? How can you give them more grace? So I would just encourage you to think about that. We are, as Terry said, we're going to be doing a 6-week study. We did it did we do it last fall, Terry? Last fall. And it was awesome. I actually did one online like this with a group during lunch on Fridays. We had a blast doing it. I learned so much, and I know everybody in our group did. So I would just encourage you to stay on the lookout for that. Even if you've been through the group, watching this for me, I'm like, man, I want to do this group again. I don't know about the rest of you, but so even if you've done it before, great reminders. If you've never done it, when Terry and Chip are saying, I'm a yellow, I'm a blue, you'll know what we're talking about. It's become cult language, or it's quickly becoming that, but it's really helpful language too. So thank you, all of you that are on, Tracy, Peggy, Darlene, Wally, Brian, and Terry. Thanks for being a part of this and sharing. It's been awesome fun. And if you have questions, email any of us. Email me at Curt@garfieldchurch.org or Terry at garfieldchurch.org. We'll get you plugged in a small group, and hopefully you can continue to grow. This has been challenging times for everybody. And sometimes our weaknesses are coming out, but as Darlene shared, sometimes our strengths are as well. And so together, as I'm tired of hearing say this, but together we will get through this. And the more we can love each other and speak kind words of affirmation, the better off that we'll be. So Terry, would you mind praying us out, and then we'll sign off?
I will be happy, but I just want to let you know, Brian, that Larry, who's watching, has Marco Polo.
Yeah, Larry.
And judging by the picture, and I hope Larry doesn't get mad at me, but Larry does have some gray in his hair, so.
It's for everybody.
Everybody has gray in their hair about now.
I do as well, so.
Or they don't have any at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know.
Well,
I'm gonna
I want to.
L'Oreal is wonderful.
What's that?
What?
Yeah. I want to add my thanks to Curt for you all taking time. We're sorry Selena couldn't be with us today, our other green, but really has been fun. And yeah, so, and we'll be posting this as we do with part 1 on YouTube. So you can also point people there if they're not on Facebook, and they can connect with the content that way. So let's pray. God, thank you that you have created us so uniquely and with so many gifts. Thank you for this tool that helps us to love one another better, to speak words of kindness. So as we wrap up today, we're not going to wrap up continuing to be reflective and then be active in helping others' needs be met and using words that are kind. not words that hurt. So thank you for Kathleen and that she's made this, I said this, you heard that, available to all of us, and just bless and keep each one. Thank you all. God, thank you for bringing people to be sharing with us online, and for this team here. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
host.
Bless you.
Thank you.
All right.
You
Love
too.
you guys.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Hey,
Bye.
Bye.
Stay safe.
okay,
Marco
see you
Polo.
guys.
Marco Polo.
Marco Polo.